everyone, and welcome back to the KK Zone. As always, I'm Kara Kaufman, and today I'm going to dive into an explanation of the Rule 5 draft. Now, whether you heard it referenced in one of my other videos and were curious to learn more, or you read about it in a baseball article and wanted to know what it was all about, or you clicked on this video entirely by accident, in about 6 minutes, you will know enough about the Rule 5 draft to drop the term casually in baseball conversation. Now, you could also drop it casually in non-baseball conversation, but I wouldn't recommend that if you are hoping for the conversation to continue. Okay, so the Rule 5 draft. Conceptually, it's a way to prevent teams from stashing prospects indefinitely in their minor league systems. In practice, it is, as the name would imply, a version of a draft, held annually in December, during which teams can take players from other organizations and bring them into their own. There's a major league portion and a minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft. The major league portion is the one that most directly affects roster construction, so that's the one we're going to focus on today. So, how does it work? Obviously, teams can't just go around snatching away the Gleyber Torreses of the world to make their own teams better. Players who are eligible for the Rule 5 draft are players who are not on their organization's 40-man roster and who have been with their organization for 5 seasons if they were signed at age 18 or younger, or for 4 seasons if they were signed at age 19 or older. That's why every winter you hear about teams protecting their young players who have been with the organization for a while but haven't yet made the major leagues by adding them to their 40-man roster. This can be a really difficult decision for teams to make because there are a limited number of roster spots, 40, and if you have a ton of talent just below the major league level, there may not be room to protect every prospect that you would theoretically be interested in keeping. Which is why the system exists in the first place, to allow talented youngsters who are major league ready, but who are stuck in the minors on teams that already have a bunch of talent ahead of them, to get a shot to succeed in the big leagues on a team that has the room to let them shine. Which brings me to the major caveat of the Rule 5 draft, and the reason you don't often hear about teams selecting really talented but very young players from the low minors, which is any selected player must remain on the active roster of the selecting team for the entire season, or he gets returned to his original club. Now that is the active 26-man, guys who are currently with the big league squad roster. So, any player selected has to be able to contribute enough in the show to take up a roster spot for an entire season, or the selecting team has to be willing to accept that they've selected an unpolished player who they know is not going to contribute, and it's worth it to stockpile the future talent. As you might expect, therefore, teams that are constantly in contention and have deep minor league farm systems, like the Yankees, generally are more likely to have players selected from them than to make selections during the Rule 5 draft. And in fact, between 2015 and 2019, the Bombers have made a grand total of 0 Rule 5 draft selections, but they have had 12 players selected from them. Meanwhile, teams like, say, the Orioles or the Tigers, who don't have a contending club right now, but would be interested in adding parts to build the future, might be willing to take a flyer on a kid who they know isn't quite major league ready, but is a way to acquire free talent that might be able to help them when their clubs are ready to contend. Side note, it's not actually free, but the $100,000 that a selecting club has to pay to the club they're taking the player from is effectively $0 in the grand scheme of MLB budgets. And those non-contending teams have the first crack at the Rule 5 eligible players. Like the regular draft, teams select in order of their record from last season from worst to best. As of June 10th, 2020, of the 12 players the Yankees have had selected from them in the Rule 5 draft, all but 2 have come back into the fold. The 2 Renegades are Ronnie Garcia. He's a young pitching prospect who was selected this past offseason by the Tigers, and he has not been returned yet because, well, there's no baseball being played. The season was put on hold. So, if no baseball is in fact played this year, I am not sure what would happen to this system and what would become of Ronnie. However, optimistically assuming that there will be some games played in some form, the Tigers will have to keep Garcia on their active roster for the entire season of 2020, whatever that entails, or he'll get returned to the Yankees. Now, Ronnie might have a better chance of sticking this year in particular because of the expanded roster situation the league is putting in place in an attempt to prevent injuries due to the lack of ramp-up period by the definitely going to be shortened spring training, whatever that looks like. We shall see. The other erstwhile Rule 5 draftee is Luis Torrens, claimed by the Padres back in 2016. He was extremely young when selected, but against all odds, San Diego did keep him on their roster for the entire 2017 season, and so they got to keep him. Now, during that season, he played in 56 games, he hit .193, and was worth negative .9 wins above replacement. So in this case, .9 wins below replacement. So the kid didn't play very often, was obviously not ready to face big league pitching, and was worth negative value. But the Padres kept him anyway, because that year, they lost 91 games. They finished, how many? 33 games behind the Dodgers in the National League West that season, and they could afford to just use the roster spot on the kid they knew wasn't ready in order to keep him for the next time that they thought they might be able to contend. And they did that. So now they have this valuable prospect in their system. And we can tell that that was their plan the whole time because actually in 2018 he spent his entire season in the minors, and in 2019 he spent his entire season in the minors except for 16 plate appearances with the big club. So you can look at it as a win for the Padres. They ended up acquiring some valuable talent. However, they did spend a whole season throwing that talent to the wolves in the major leagues and losing a year of his development time, which could have maybe been better spent in the minors progressing through the levels. Okay, so next time you hear the Rule 5 draft mentioned, you know everything. You'll be able to extol its virtues in terms of giving younger players a chance to shine when they're stuck in their own farm systems, or be able to puzzle over your own team's decisions about which prospects to protect and which ones to leave available to be poached. Or you'll just be able to nod knowingly and wonder how Luis Torrens is doing in San Diego these days. I hope this was a helpful explainer. More from me soon, but in the meantime, as always, go Yanks!